Okay, so every now and then a story comes along that's just wild. One that sits at this crazy intersection of culture, business, and politics. Well, this is one of those stories. It's a truly unbelievable collision between the world of hip hop and, of all things, international diplomacy. And it all kicked off with this tweet from FBA founder Tariq Nasheed. Now, at first glance, it looks like a pretty powerful quote about ownership, right? But what it was really doing was announcing a diplomatic appointment so out of left field, it sent shockwaves from the old Rockefeller offices all the way to Lisbon. And there it is, the bombshell itself. The hip-hop mogul, the relentless entrepreneur, Damon Dame Dash, was just named the FBA Ambassador to Portugal. I mean, this is a move that feels like it was dreamed up on social media and then just dropped into the super traditional, stuffy world of foreign affairs. The rules of the game? Yeah, they were completely rewritten. So you're probably asking, how on earth does a hip-hop icon even land a diplomatic job? Well, the announcement mentioned a rigorous vetting process, which was, let's just say it was unconventional. It's kind of the perfect example of this whole new cultural logic we're seeing. Now get this, these weren't just some of the questions. These were the only three questions they asked. Seriously, forget foreign policy or trade agreements. This was a complete rejection of all the usual qualifications. Instead, it was all about personal branding and, that creator economy mindset. And Dame, of course, reportedly said yes to all three, and boom, he got the job right there on the spot. So, with the vetting complete, Ambassador Dash headed off to Portugal. And as you can probably guess, his unique diplomatic style immediately clashed with centuries of European tradition. And that led to a pretty significant misunderstanding right out of the gate. And this slide just perfectly sums up the disconnect. You've got Portuguese officials, right, steeped in history, probably expecting to have some deep discussion about the Treaty of Tordesillas or something. And instead, in walks Ambassador Dash, who just cuts right through all of it with a much more direct question: who owned the port? To really get what's going on here, you have to understand Dame's core philosophy, his whole doctrine, which really boils down to this one simple definition. And it's not just a catchphrase, this is his entire operating system. In Dame's world, it's simple. If you don't have ownership, you are by definition a worker. End of story. So at his very first press conference, Ambassador Dash laid out his three-point plan. And wow, was it bold. We're talking about totally rebranding a major European financial district, turning actual historic castles into modern media hubs, and then trying to make his personal catchphrase an official piece of diplomatic language. And here's the kicker. Dame also announced he wouldn't be taking a salary. And his reasoning? A salary makes you an employee, and he wasn't there to work for anyone. He said he was there as a partner in history. It's just a fascinating way to apply his business rules to the world stage. It's that entrepreneurial mindset crashing right into these old school institutions. As you can imagine, this whole thing did not go unnoticed. The news just ripped through the diplomatic community, and the reactions were, well, let's just say they were all over the place. This chart really breaks it down perfectly. You had his supporters who were all for it, calling it bold and disruptive. Then you had the critics basically asking, does this guy even know where Portugal is? And Portugal's official response? One diplomat apparently just called the whole situation confused but educational. I mean, that pretty much says it all, right? This whole divide really reflects this bigger debate about who gets a seat at the table in the 21st century. And Ambassador Dash's comeback to his critics, it was swift, it was sharp, and it was perfectly on brand. He just brushed off the questions about geography, basically saying his expertise isn't in maps, it's in spotting systems of exploitation, no matter where they are. Apparently, the impact of Dame's whole anti-contract thing was felt immediately. In a pretty funny but telling detail, word got out that Portuguese officials actually started hiding all their contracts, just as a precaution, probably to avoid any spontaneous lectures or renegotiations. So this whole episode really opens up a much bigger conversation, doesn't it? Is this just some kind of one-off stunt, or are we actually watching the birth of a totally new, culturally driven way of doing foreign relations? Well, according to some leaked info, this might just be the beginning. There's chatter about sending a rapper to Switzerland to, quote, audit the banks, or sending a YouTuber to the UK to, quote, return something. And maybe my favorite, sending someone's uncle to France for the sole mission of, quote, just to argue. And really, that's the big question this whole bizarre saga leaves us with. In an age where your influence is your currency and your personal brand is your policy, what does it actually look like when internet culture starts shaping the very real world of global diplomacy? It's a strange, funny, and honestly fascinating thought to end on.